welcome to Mr. Dilly Meets, a very, very special Mr. Dilly Meets today. Very excited today. So wherever and whenever you're watching this, you are most welcome. Very, very exciting. And thanks for tuning in. Now, you're going to need some pens and pencils with you today. We have some interactive draw-alongs with one of our guests today. So get ready for some adventure draw-alongs. In fact, unlimited adventure draw-alongs coming up later on. Part of the aim of today's show is to inspire you. You're reading, you haven't found a book yet that you really like and get into, and the hope of today's show and our guest is to kind of inspire that love of reading, love of stories, love of writing, love of drawing. Pick up a pen in any way, get writing and get drawing, and also get reading, and bring those stories out of you to life. And that's very much part of the aim of today's show. So how are we going to do that? Well, my friends, I'm very excited to be bringing you an author who, after years of inviting us to laugh out loud and jumping into his world of stories, is still I believe, right at the top of his game, especially with his latest book, or shall I say, right on top of his treehouse with his latest book. He is the author of the Just books, but most famously, I think, he's the author of the Treehouse series of books. I think it's about 2011, I believe, with illustrator Terry Denton. He published the first of their Treehouse series of books. Since then, they've gone on to work together with another 12 books, so 13 in the series, and sold about 10 million copies worldwide, which is pretty astounding. This year in the UK, the last in the series was published, the 169-story Treehouse. But now he is back, along with a different illustrator Bill Hope, with The Land, you can see it behind me here, but I'm going to hold up as well, The Land of Lost Things. So before we meet Bill Hope, we're going to meet the man himself, and welcome to Mr. Dilly Meets the wonder that is Andy Griffiths. Andy Griffiths, sir. He's back. How are you, sir?
I'm really good, thank you. How are you?
I'm really good. So before we go on to talk about The Land of Lost Things itself, the first in your new Adventures Unlimited series, the Treehouse books, of course, such a huge international phenomenon, really. I'm sure pretty all the kids watching will have heard of them or seen them or read them themselves. But just in brief, because that series finished this year, what were those Treehouse books about? So I'll hand over to you for that. Tell us a bit more about those.
Well, the Treehouse series was about me and Terry Denton, who's an illustrator that I've worked with for many, many years. And we discovered that if we sat in the same room together and just messed around and tried to make each other laugh, we came up with some pretty wild stuff. And sometimes I'd say to Terry, hey, you've got to stop messing around. We've got to get this book done. And he would be off drawing a picture of his finger or a dog that wouldn't stop barking. I'd say that's not helpful, but maybe we can use that to fill in the book. And I said, we were on deadline one time. We hardly had anything written. I said, right, we're going to write about ourselves living in the world's coolest treehouse with a bowling alley and a tank full of man-eating sharks and a marshmallow machine that fires marshmallows at you whenever you're hungry. And it'll be us living in the treehouse trying to write the book, but we're always getting distracted by all this stuff. And so that's how we wrote the first book. Thinking we were just amusing ourselves and our readership in Australia, not suspecting that the rest of the world would come in on the joke.
Well, that's what I mean, because I was just going to ask you, and I know you've probably been asked this before, but as it's the last book in the series, I mean, 13 books is unbelievable, isn't it? That's incredible, and you were just saying, did you ever imagine that it would grow like it did, and not just in success, but in terms of the number of books? And then also there's all the spin-offs as well. Did you ever foresee that or not?
Not really. I asked Terry for those things in the Treehouse. He ended up drawing 13 levels with observation decks and bedrooms and even a bathroom for those who don't want to just go off the edge of the level. It's nice, you got your choice. And a see-through swimming pool without sharks in it. So he drew that, and we just thought this would be a funny one-off book where we couldn't write the book. But then the kids in Australia loved it so much, so we really want another one. So I said, all right, well, we'll tell you how me and Terry and my wife Jill, who's the editor, and another character in the book who helps us solve all our problems, animal problems in the book, editing problems in real life. So, and Terry is a little bit off track a lot of the time. He's not doing his work.
Yeah.
And I am cracking the whip a bit more. Like
it kind of reflected where you were at, in a sense, in your mind and where you were at. Yeah. So the 13 stories, that wasn't like you sort of like, we should have 13. He just happened to draw 13.
For that, and I thought 13 is a really cool number.
Yeah.
And when we went to do the second book, I said, let's just add another 13 stories. And
it just got bigger and bigger.
The 26-story Treehouse. And then the kids wanted more, so we went, we'll add another 13. And we got to the 39-story Treehouse. So it takes a year to write each book. Same with Bill and the Land of the Lost Things.
Yeah.
There's a year's work in each book of just backwards and forwards. And every time you get together, someone comes up with a new, better idea. And then that sends us both writing and drawing
somewhere else. And how does it feel then to be... So for that last book to sort of come out this year, because obviously it was going to end at some point, I guess. So how did that feel, sort of, to finish that series off and then be launching this new one? It
was bittersweet, because as each book in the Treehouse grew higher, so 13, 26, 39, the last book was 169 levels. It became harder and harder to find a level that we hadn't done before, which made me think and have to be really desperately creative, and would come up some really good stuff. But also, I never wanted to repeat a plot idea or a level idea. And I realized at 169 levels, it was going to start getting repetitive if we didn't stop it there. So kind of a little bit sad, but also a great relief, because every book had 13 chapters, 13 new levels. And we just thought 13 books is kind of a logically illogical place to stop.
Well, it's an incredible feat of imagination to come up with that many ideas in that many books. I mean, it's hats off to you. I won't take my hat off, but hats off to you. The books themselves, and I know this is a big passion of yours, and we talk about a bit more about this later on with Bill when he comes on in a moment as well. But it's really, and I can see why it's really that series, and then your new series would do the same. I'm absolutely positive about that. Has really kind of inspired a lot of kids who were possibly reluctant readers back then to sort of pick up a book and start reading and get into stories, and maybe go on to make stories of themselves and stuff like that. How important is that to you in that series kind of inspired that kind of actions in children and adults, I guess, as well?
Oh, that's what it's all about for me, because that's how I got into writing. I used to be a kid. I was in school. Myself and my friends would entertain each other with cartoons and silly little stories, often that the teacher never saw. We were just doing it for our pure own amusement, and that's creativity. It's primarily enjoying what you can think that will make someone else react, and they might laugh, or they might go, "Ugh, that's disgusting." I didn't mind. I just wanted to make someone have a reaction. And it's like a little game that you play. And the more you do it, the better, the more reactions you can get with your...
And then people start talking about it, don't they? Start talking about it. Did you see that bit? Did you read that bit? And it kind of sparks their own minds and the possibilities of what story can do. And I've got to tell you, I mean, your latest, I want to hold it up, but it's in behind me, The Land of Lost Things, the first in the Adventures Unlimited series. I can't recommend this book enough. Whatever you're reading sort of ability, whether you're a reluctant reader, sort of established reader, you are completely connected with the story, the adventure, and all the possibilities of where a story can go to. We've got a question for you here, which kind of links into that. This is from Andy. This is from Tally Community Primary School in Hampshire. So what inspired you, let's talk about this series, to write these types of stories for children? Because I know this is going to be the first of another series.
Yeah, well, like what started me writing originally for children was that I became an English teacher, and I had a lot of kids who didn't like reading or writing, and I started writing them funny little stories that they found funny and they wanted to copy. So that's how I got into it. And the Treehouse was funny and silly and exciting all at the same time. But with The Land of Lost Things, I was responding to a question that a lot of readers were asking, and they were saying, can you put me in the book? Can you put me and my friends in the book? Can you put me and my dog and my mother and dad in the book? And so I realized people wanted to be even more connected. And I got together with Bill Hope, an amazing illustrator, and said, how do we, if I wanted to do a book with me and you, the reader, how would we show the reader? Because all readers are different sizes, different nationalities, different ages, different genders. How do we deal with that? And he came up with this great idea that we put a box on their heads. So we're two adventurers and we're wearing our adventure suits, which look like this. So this is you. Yep, it's you there with a cardboard box with a pair of flip-flops on your head.
I think I've got a picture here, Andy. I've got another picture here, which is the one from the book. It is, though. Shall I put this one up, which has got all the different Bill's drawings as well? Let me just put this drawing up here. So you can see it clearer there.
So Bill drew this, and they're just sort of everyday household items, like you would play for dress-ups, but it conceals the identity of the people behind. So I can say that's you, and whoever you are, you can imagine yourself there. And me, I'm reminding you of the story that we've had, because we've had so many adventures. You're a little bit forgetful and you can't remember them all. So the idea of the book is I'm saying, hey, remember when we went to the land of the lost things to look for my lost lucky rabbit's foot? Wasn't that cool? And you go, oh, I don't quite remember. And I go, yeah, of course you do. It all started like this. And so that's how the series began. And when I sent just a few paragraphs to Bill just took it and ran with it and started creating these amazing fantasy landscapes.
Well, should we welcome Bill in, Andy? You just mentioned it. Let's get Bill on. So put your hands together. The illustrator of The Land of Lost Things and lots of other stuff. Incredible illustrator. We'll give him a round of applause. Please welcome Mr. Bill Hope. Hello, Bill. How are you, Bill?
I'm very, very well. Thank you so much for having me on the live stream, Mr. Dilly.
Oh no, it's an absolute pleasure to have you on. So, as I said, big fan of the book. You created something together of real wonder and joy. Actually, I mean that's the thing. Joy is kind of a rare thing, and congratulations on bringing something joyful to the world, which is an amazing thing. Just a quick question for you, Bill. Could be talking about the Treehouse series and stuff. Did you read Andy's books growing up yourself, or was that part of what you grew up with, or not?
I did. I'm a little bit older than the Treehouse series, but I did read Andy's books when I was in primary school. So I have a very distinct memory of picking up a book called Just Disgusting, which was part of the Just series, which came out before the Treehouse series. And I remember there being, I think it was this book, there was a drawing of a really grotesque snail, and he had fingers poking out, and you can see the engine within the snail and all sorts of crazy things. It was Terry Denton's amazing drawings. And I remember being really struck by that, and that being one of those images that was stuck in my mind. So when this job came along to work with Andy, it was so exciting for me, because that was one of the books that I had. That was an original inspiration when I was a kid. So it's been.
What I'm going to ask you about that,
dream doing this.
About what you just said, is that the working together. I mean, what's obviously illustrators and authors work together in all sorts of different ways. Sometimes the author isn't even aware of the illustrations at all, or doesn't even work with the illustrator together in a collaborative kind of way. It just kind of appear in the book. But for the both of you, what's been your sort of favorite thing about working together, on this? So I'll ask you, Andy, and then Bill, tell me from your angle what's been the best thing about that. So, Manny, what's your favorite thing about working with Bill on this, and with a different illustrator after all these years as well?
Yeah, look, Bill is so intuitive. so quick to pick up on the kind of thing that I'm talking about in a story. I give him just a few of the vaguest hints about, okay, well, we need a land full of lost things. So there'll be all these lost socks and underpants and anything else you can think up. And then he just comes back with this beautiful landscape, which really helps me to know where we are in the story, and the story ideas just start flowing very naturally. So yeah, it's like he's exactly on the same wavelength, which I didn't expect.
Yeah, I bet that was a real surprise, wasn't it? And what about yourself, Bill? Is this the same kind of thing what Andy said, or what is it?
Absolutely. I mean, one of the joys of this job and the surprises of it is how part of the whole creative process I've been. Andy and I do live streams like this maybe once a week where we're talking and drawing at the same time. So the words and the pictures are appearing at the same time. And one of the nicest things people say about the book is that it looked like it was fun to make. And that's the really important thing for me, that it feels fun because we had a lot of fun working on it. So it's been an amazing collaboration. Yeah.
But it does come across. I got a question for you both, and then I think we're going to go into reading for you, Andy, after that, and then we're going to have the first of Bill's draw-alongs as well. So this is from St. John the Baptist School in Mexborough. What advice would you give to anyone wanting to be an author or illustrator? So, Andy, can you answer that on the author take? So you got kids at school now. I don't know how old they are watching, sort of 7 to 12 or something like that. Any advice for them?
It's really boring advice, and it's just like practice. Just do lots of writing and lots of illustrating. And I remember Terry would often tell me he wasn't the best drawer in his class, but he was the kid who was drawing all the time. And he just clocked up, hundreds, thousands of hours of drawing practice. And I would say that about me too. I'm not the greatest writer in the world, but I was always writing and practicing, and I know how to make the reader feel something. So it's sheer practice, thousands of hours. But practice makes it sound like it's work. It should be joyously fun. If it's not, you've gone down the wrong track.
Go to something else. And what about yourself, Bill? Is it the same sort of thing what Andy said in terms of that?
It's very similar. It's basically if you love drawing and you find a way to love drawing, you do it all the time. And if you do it all the time, you'll get good at some point. But the only other thing I'd add is that I think you need to be a passionate practitioner, but you need to be a fan as well. You need to really love the stuff that you love, and you need to try and understand why you love it. And what is it about the thing that you love that makes it so special to you? So you got to be a good drawer or good writer, but you got to be a big fan.
I would agree with that.
Great reader, because the more you read, the more you see how stories are put together, and the more you can borrow from your favorite writers.
That's really, really, really good advice. And it kind of, I guess, you just keep on keeping on, and you find a way that works for you, don't you? The more you do it, you find a way. Andy, what we can do is we can say goodbye to Andy briefly. Bill, we're going to go across to Bill, and Bill's going to do our first draw along from the land of lost things. So Andy, we'll speak to you in just a moment, Andy. Okay, so we're just let's just jump into the world of Bill Hope. So Bill, we're going to put your other camera on now, which is your drawing cam. Oh, there we go, drawing camera. I'll remove myself a minute, and Bill, you can talk us through what you're going to draw. So people watching, get your pens and papers ready, and Bill, when you finish, let me know, and we'll come back and we'll carry on with the show. So over to you now, Bill, with a draw along. Here we go.
Okay, wonderful. Well, I'm so excited that you guys are going to be doing some drawing with me today. So it doesn't matter what you got, any kind of pencil, texter, anything that you've got, we're just going to do a little bit of scribbling. So I've got a few of the characters from the book here. I've got the you and me characters that we talked about. I've got another character here called the Pirate Rabbit, who's a vicious pirate sailing the seas. And then we've got a final character here called Johnny Knucklehead. We'll do a couple draw-alongs, and I'll show you sort of some simple ways to draw each of these three characters. But we're going to start with just our two main characters, which are the you and me characters. So we talked a bit before about them having these adventure helmets, these boxes on their heads. So I'm just going to show you how to draw the box heads of our two main characters first. So they're pretty easy. I thought I'd make something nice and simple to get us started. So we're going to start with a square on the left-hand side. So this is for you, where you're wearing your adventure mask. And on the right-hand side, I'm going to draw a sort of taller triangle shape like this. And that's our starting point. So after that, they've got to find a way to see out of a box. I've tried wearing a box on my head for a while. It's much easier if you've got a little cutout to look out of. So we're going to draw a cutout on each of our boxes here. So I'm going to put one there and one there on our two boxes. So your adventure mask, we can see your eyes inside that box. I'm going to draw two little eyes there, two little circles with some dots for eyes poking out from inside the box. And this, the me character, I just shade that in. It's sort of a much bigger, darker box, that one, so we can't see the eyes of that character. Now we've got some sort of added bits and bobs to our helmets to make them extra interactive. So your character has some flip-flops attached to the top of this cardboard box, and these are rabbit's ear detecting antenna for his helmet. So I'm going to draw some flip-flops poking out the top. If you end up making your own mask, you can just sticky tape a couple of flip-flops onto the top of a cardboard box, and you'll be ready to go for a limited adventure. And the me character, he's got a brush. He's sort of got a sort of dustpan and broom. I'll just draw one on the side here. A kind of dustpan and broom with a handle like that. He's got one of those stuck to the top of his box. It's kind of like a Roman gladiator or something. It's one of those big sort of frills on top of his helmet. So we're going to draw the top of a brush there. And he's got some, I think I called them acoustic detecting cones, but he's got two toilet rolls stuck to the side of his box. So we're going to draw two toilet rolls on the side of that box. I'll just erase that, that brush there. So we're almost done. I'm going to draw the bottom of the boxes coming up the bottom there. We can sketch those on. And the last thing we're going to need is a bit of expression, something to make these characters look a bit more exciting. So maybe I'll give you character, you're going to have a big smile. So I might draw a mouth in there. And we'll put some eyebrows on top. And maybe I'm terrified in this one. So this is the me character. He's going to have a big grimace. He's going to be a bit worried. Oh. Okay. So there we go. Hopefully you've been able to draw along with that simple one. We've just got our two characters there, as you can see them on the cover of the book. So that's our first draw along, and we'll come back for a couple more after that. So back to you, Mr. Dilly.
Thank you very much, Bill. That's brilliant. Okay, Bill, we'll say goodbye to Bill for a minute. We're going to bring Andy back for a little reading of the book. So Bill, I'll speak to you in a minute. Thank you very much for that. So, and that brilliant, fantastic, brilliant, really, really good. Hope you enjoyed that, and a couple more draw-alongs, or definitely one more, and something else special towards the end. Is towards the end of the show. So let's welcome back Mr. Andy Griffiths. Okay, Andy. So over to you now. So you're going to give us a little taster of the Land of Lost thing. So I hand over to you. Give us a bit of context and a little reading. So this is Andy.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's you and me. And we're sitting around our adventure clubhouse, and you say, hey, let's go on an adventure. And I said, well, I'd love to, but I've lost my lucky rabbit's foot, and it would be much too dangerous to go on an adventure without it. Don't worry, you said, I've got a lucky four-leaf clover. We can use that for good luck while we look for my lost lucky rabbit's foot. That could be our adventure. Come on, let's go. Okay, I said, but first we have to put our adventure suits on. And so we did. And you've seen our adventure suits, and especially our helmets that Bill has just drawn. And once we were all suited up, you said, let the great lost lucky rabbit's foot finding quest begin. And before we knew it, we were hurtling down the highway in our uncrashable adventure car. And if a writer tells you that the adventure car is uncrashable, guess what? Of course it's crashable. And that's exactly what happens. We're driving along where you're looking for the rabbit's foot while I'm trying to drive. And we see a lot of things beginning with R, but none of them are my rabbit's foot, including 3 road signs. One that says, warning, dangerous cliff ahead. Another one says, seriously, it's a really dangerous cliff with rocks and shark infested waters below. And the last one says, stop, you fools. and I'm driving and I'm like, is it my rabbit's foot? And you go, no, it's road signs. And I go, well, I don't want to know. And then guess what happens? Well, you can probably guess. We drive right off the edge of the cliff, over the cliff, towards the rocks and towards the sharks below. And fortunately, we have a very complicated control panel with one button that's really useful in this case, which is fly. And you say, can I press the fly button? And I say, you sure can. It's like it's your fault we've gone over here. And you push the button, and up, and away we flew. And that's the real beginning of our adventure, because we go very high in the sky and into another dimension.
It's a great start. I mean, it's a great start. I mean, you just don't know with the book where it's going to go, literally, and it is absolutely brilliant. Let's bring Bill back. We're going to have a bit more chat about the characters from the book, Andy, the drawing of them, and your sort of process working together as well. So let's welcome back Bill. So the characters in the book. We've got a quick question, which kind of, I guess, is for you, Bill, for this one, and then we'll talk about sort of the wider characters. You showed us some of those characters there that are out of Andy's mind, but you obviously sort of interpreted them in terms of how you're actually going to draw them and the colouring of them and all that kind of stuff. Wavy Tree C School in Liverpool. Is there a character? Which character did you enjoy drawing the most, do you think, in the book?
I got to choose. Well, actually, there's two. There's one which is called it's a little guinea pig called Pookie, who's just the cutest character in the world. He's got these big fluffy cheeks. Yep, kind of like that, but even cuter, if you can imagine that. It's the cutest guinea pig in the world. So I enjoyed that one because everybody loves an adorable little guinea pig. So Pookie was a great one. But my other favorite character was Johnny Knucklehead, who just has a hand for a head. And it's quite tricky because you have to draw a hand all the time. But look, Andy's got him on his hand
he's
right
on there.
now.
There he is, live from the studio. Johnny Knucklehead.
And Johnny Knucklehead is kind of our friend, but kind of our enemy. He keeps betraying us. He's desperate to get treasure the whole time. And he's a bit of a scary, intense character. You never know what's going to happen next with Johnny Knucklehead. So I loved drawing him all the time because he's got an element of chaos about him. Something's going to go wrong when Johnny.
And also his head is a hand, which makes for all sorts of interesting,
which is just kind of funny. So
kind of funny things. In terms of like the actual, working, you mentioned a bit about this before, but when you had you written all this and then gave it to Bill, or did like Bill's illustrations then inspire you to kind of take other things a little bit further, and sort of vice versa? You know what I mean? Did you inspire each other to sort of take things into different directions? How did that work, Andy?
I'd barely written anything. I just knew we had to go to the land of lost things. I think it began as a lost sock. It was going to be the day my sock took over the world or something. And Terry, Bill drew a beautiful big sock threatening a whole city. And I found that very funny, but in the end, socks, whatever. And then I said, I think it needs to be something smaller. So it became a rabbit's foot. But we didn't have much. And I said, I've got this funny name for a character called Johnny Knucklehead. What would he look like? And Bill sent me back pictures of 5 kind of knuckle-headed characters, but one had literally knuckles for head. And I went, that's the guy. That's who I've got in my head. He's kind of, as Bill said, he's sort of friendly, but he's also ready to double cross us and play tricks on us. But once I saw that, I went, right, now I know what has to happen. He's going to meet us in the lost things. He's going to swindle us out of our treasure. And so
you're never really sure where he's going with him. I mean, that's amazing. How did you sort of come? You said earlier, Andy, about the fact that as a mate, you're obviously working with Terry on the Treehouse, and you were really in tune across that series. So to find Bill and then meet someone else who can expand and take things in a different direction, stuff. How did you sort of meet each other in terms of that? Then how did that come about, Bill? How did that come about?
It's funny. It was kind of doing something like this. There's a company called Adobe, and I would do some live streams for them where I'd be drawing, and they'd make YouTube videos out of those. And it would be like this, where people would write in the comments and say, "Hey, Bill, draw a buffalo riding a jet ski or something like that, and I'd just kind of scribble it away. And the lady who does the design for Andy's books, a woman called Liz Seymour, saw those videos and thought, this is the kind of thing that we want. It's someone sort of drawing quickly and someone who can interpret ideas on the fly. So that was really the original point of our relationship, is that kind of spontaneous live drawing. And once we kind of had that connection, we started chatting and ended up working together. Yeah.
And that idea of that, you know, you mentioned that earlier, Andy, about the sort of, you know, kids writing in saying, you know, can you put me in your book? Can you put my dog in the book? All that kind of stuff. Was that very much the idea of the series from the beginning? Was it? So you're actually part of that adventure in terms of that?
Yeah. As the Treehouse was finishing, my publishers were very sad, because they said, "Oh, are you going to write anything else?" And I was like, well, the kids want to be in the book, so I've got this Me and You, and I had one tiny paragraph about me and you walking through the forest, and we come to a deep hole, and you say, "How deep is that hole?" And I say, well, I don't know, but let's drop a rock and we'll count how many seconds till it hits the bottom. But we couldn't hear it hit the bottom. And you said, "I've got a much better idea. I'm going to jump down the hole." And I said, "No, you idiot." But you'd already jumped. So I had to jump in after you. That was literally the beginning of it. And
that's amazing.
Bill drew some pictures for that. In the end, we went with Lost Things. But the next book, the second book, which will come out next year, will be all about that deep hole. So you jump down a deep hole.
Oh, I'm looking forward to that already. Let's have a couple of school questions for you, and then we're going to have should we have another reading after that? And then I think maybe talk a little bit more about reading and your influences, both of you, after that, and then another draw along if we can. So let's have a couple more school questions. So this is a difficult one. St. Paul's Catholic Primary School in Alnwick. What is your favourite sentence from your book, and how did you think of the title? So, Bill, you may have one as well. So, let's go to Andy first, and then Bill, if you got, it may not be a sentence, maybe it's a favourite part of the book, of the story. But let's ask you that, Andy. Do you have a favourite part or a favourite sentence or bit in the book?
Favourite sentence? Actually, it is a little sequence where Johnny Knucklehead wants them to trust him. He's going to go into the cave in their flying sock-powered bath and see if there's treasure and make sure there's no people trying to trap them. And he's going, "Yeah, you can trust me." And I say, "Well, we should have known better than to trust that 15-fingered fibber," I said, "especially since it's not exactly the first time he's double-crossed us like this. In fact, now that I think about it, it's probably more like the fourth time." And then Bill has drawn the 4 times that Johnny double-crossed us. And we ask him, we say, "You're not going to double-cross us this time?" "Oh, no, I promise." "Oh, all right, then, we trust you." So me and you are not terribly smart sometimes.
Yeah, but that's like life, isn't it? What about you, Bill? Do you have like a favourite part or a sentence or something that maybe you drew that kind of thing? I love that bit of description or something that you kind of did.
Yeah, I'll show you one of my maybe one of my favorite drawings from it is there's a big terrifying cat, and we've got an image here of our cat leaping at our characters here, about to eat them all up. And I really love drawing that cat. Once you get close enough to any kind of regular old domestic cat like that, they can be pretty terrifying. But one of my favorite lines from the book that Andy wrote is that we lose the plot in the book. We forget what our book's about. And there's a character called Plotty who tells us what the book might be about. And we're trying to decide what kind of book it might be. And Plotty says, "Perhaps it's more of a tragedy comedy then. You know, like you slipped on a banana peel and then fell into a volcano. Sort of funny and sad at the same time." And I love that line because I love the idea of it being tragic, but also funny that you slipped on a banana peel and fell into a banana peel and fell
That
into
is also much like life, and it happens at the same time. My actual bit, I loved all those bits actually, and I love that plotty bit. But I love the when you find the pirate rabbit and the whole bit here. How I lost my foot. That whole bit that goes through, which is hilarious, and I thought that was wonderful. Had the title, Andy, you sort of mentioned it a bit just a bit before, but how did you come up with that title? Did that just come about kind of organically when you and Bill started working together?
I think so. We knew it was going to be adventurous, and I grew up loving Enid Blyton books, in particular the Magic Wishing Chair, The Adventures of the Wishing Chair, and of course the Magic Faraway Tree. And the Treehouse was partly me doing my own version of how, not copying the Faraway Tree, but how trying to evoke how it made me feel. And she also had a series of about 7 books called The River of Adventure, The Valley of Adventure, There's Something Else of Adventure. And I really loved those books. So when we came up with this, I was like, the land of, there was a lot of lost things, and I thought that sounded intriguing. But so it's copying what I liked about Enid Blyton's titles. We're going to the land.
And it's all in there. And that's why, as you said, why it's so important to try and read something when you're a kid, because it all kind of gets into you in some way or another. So what we do, we said we're going to go to a reading first. I'll tell you what we do is, okay, we're just get a bit of interactivity. Can we go back to you, Bill, for a draw along? And then straight after that, we'll do a reading straight after that. And we're going to come back with both of you. We've got quite a few other questions for both of you from schools after that. Is that okay with you, Andy? And so we're going to do that, and then we do that. That's fantastic. Okay, so goodbye for now, Andy. So, Bill, we're back to you, my friend.
Okay.
So we'll put your camera up and hand over to you for another draw along. So pens, papers, crayons, whatever you got ready for another draw along from the land of lost things. Over to you, Bill. Here we go.
Okay. Thank you so much. Okay, pencils at the ready, everyone. We're going to do one more drawing here. So this one, I thought I'd show you how to draw the pirate rabbit. So this one's slightly more complicated, so we'll take it slow at the start. What we're going to do is we're going to start drawing the front of the pirate rabbit's face. I'm going to draw a straight line along the top, and then I kind of like to draw this character almost like a sort of upside down arrow, like that. So let's start with a kind of upside down arrow, and then it's a pirate, so it's got to have a pirate hat. So we're going to draw one big long line on the top, and then it's kind of like almost like a cloud shape. We're going to draw 4 bumps like that to make the shape of the pirate hat. And if you're feeling really advanced, you could put a skull and crossbones in the middle of the pirate hat there. Okay, so we're going to work on the face. So I'm going to draw another upside down triangle kind of in the middle of our first upside down arrow there. And from that, I'm going to put a sort of half circle shape here. And this is going to be an eye patch for the pirate rabbit. So I'm going to color that in. So we've got one eye patch, and then we've got one regular eye here. So I'll put a strap for the eye patch, and I'll put an eyeball there for our other eye. And then he's a really evil, nasty character, this one. So we're going to put some angry eyebrows on our pirate rabbit. We're going to put a little mouth down here. So we're going to make him happy, but he's kind of happy and angry at the same time. And make sure to give him some big rabbity, I should say, rabbity front teeth in the middle there. So we've got some rabbity front teeth. Let's put some crazy whiskers coming out in the middle of his face like so. And the last thing he's going to need is obviously some big rabbit ears poking out the top of his hat there. So, and if you're feeling really adventurous, you can add some arms and legs to our crazy pirate rabbit here. But that's the general idea of how to draw the pirate rabbit from Land of the Lost Things. Back to you, Mr. Dilly.
That's brilliant. Thank you very much, Bill. Thank you. That's great. So, Bill, we can say goodbye for now, Bill, and get Andy back on. So, by the way, if you want to go back and watch these draw-alongs and sort of pause it within your classroom, wherever you're watching it from, on this same link, you can just watch it as many times as you want and pause it and, at your leisure. Okay, so let's welcome Andy back. Okay, Andy. So it's back to you, my friend. So let's go for another reading from your wonderful books. I hand over to you for that now. Here we go.
Oh, there's a place about the 3/4 point where the pirate rabbit has got, I think we're Yeah, we had an unfortunate interaction. Oh no, we're about to meet him. We are trying to find our way back home, and we come to a sea of napping turtles, and we can see our home all the way over there on top of that castle, on that top of that hill, but we can't get there because we don't have a boat. And then the bull, our friend, the lost bull, who's lost his temper, who we make friends with, suggests, hey, why don't we swim? And the watch says, bulls can swim as well as read. And he says, of course, we may lose our minds when somebody flaps a piece of red material in front of us, but we're not stupid. I've got a better idea, he said. Why don't we use the napping turtles as stepping stones? I'm not sure that's such a good idea, I said. Why not? You said. What could possibly go wrong, especially now that you've got your lucky rabbit's foot? You know what I said? You're right. Let's have some fun. So we stepped off the beach and onto the backs of the napping turtles, for a while at least. It was fun. This is just like a giant game of hopscotch, you said happily, as we jumped from turtleback to turtleback. So there we are, having a nice time, and part of my job as writer is to make sure they don't continue having too nice a time. Unfortunately, however, the game of hopscotch wasn't fun for very long because all our hopping woke the napping turtles, and they didn't seem that happy about being hopped on. Uh-oh, said the bull as the turtles began snapping at us with their sharp beaks. These aren't napping turtles, they're snapping turtles. They must have snapped the S off the sign. And the turtles come alive, start snapping them. And then one of my favorite drawings is where they are being chased by a whole bunch of snapping turtles. And you said, what are we going to do? There's only one thing we can do, I said. Start swimming. And that's where we swim very, very, very fast indeed.
That's really, I love that.
Look, who's in that little rowboat there? Can anyone recognize him? Look at the
that
shape.
Might be old Knucklehead. Could be old Knucklehead.
Let's hope he gives us a ride.
Fantastic stuff. Okay, let's Andy, let's just have a quick chat. So you mentioned this earlier on about and I said about how your books are kind of great if kids watching haven't really found a book they kind of really speaks to them, they kind of like, and all that kind of stuff. And I got a quote here actually you wrote about you and Terry. When you speak about that, and it says, Terry and I believe that children's book writers have one overwhelming duty: to fire the reader's imagination and encourage a love of reading. All other purposes are secondary. So with this book, how do you think this is going to sort of add to your sort of, I guess, your legacy with the Treehouse books, really, in terms of how it's kind of done that? So anything to say about that?
Yeah, well, entertainment is always number one. But in this book, I think it's a little different to Treehouse. This one feels more like a fairy, like a fractured fairy tale. At times it felt a lot like The Wizard of Oz to me, because they make friends with a watch who's lost his friends, a bull who's lost his temper, obviously me who's lost my lucky rabbit's foot, you who've lost Pookie, the guinea pig, and they're all sort of looking for something. And so there's a kind of sweetness to this, and as I said, a Wizard of Oz quality, which I like. And also another book I love is Pinocchio, which has the most fun ideas, but as you saw with the snapping turtles, it can turn sort of nightmarish as well. So a good funny book is not always funny. It's got to have darkness, and you try to balance that. And I think in this one I'm really happy with it because it feels like one of the fairy tales I loved growing up.
I'd agree with that, absolutely, 100%. Let's bring Bill back. We've got a question that kind of just links into what you just finished with there. So hi again, Bill. This is another school question. You mentioned some of your favourite books around him. We spoke about them and your influence and stuff. But so I'll start with Bill with this one. Hollandmoor Primary School, Lancashire. What is your most memorable book from your childhood, and why? I guess it doesn't have to be your favorite book, but most memorable, I guess. Any thoughts?
Yeah, well, I mean, the one that sort of springs to mind right now is a book called John Draws Monsters by Quentin Blake. I don't know if it was by Quentin Blake, but it was illustrated by Quentin Blake, who's by far my favorite illustrator. And the amazing thing about that book is it's filled with Quentin Blake sort of doing children's drawings. And he does kind of like his traditional illustrative style, but he also draws kind of like a child, and he draws these amazing monster things. And the monsters were so good, and I couldn't quite tell why they were so good, but they were drawn in this very kind of naive, simple sort of style. And it was something about sort of the spirit or the feeling coming through those drawings rather than them being just sort of technically perfect. Yeah. So I'd say Quentin Blake, John Draws Monsters is the one that comes to mind, of one that really sort of opened my mind to the ways that you could draw.
Oh, that's brilliant. And what about you, Andy? You mentioned some of them. Do you have a particular one that kind of like is right there at the sort of at the top? Tricky to choose, I know.
Alice's Adventures in Wonderland is always there. You can read it over and over again and find funny poems and ideas and philosophical things that turn your head around. But when I went to write adventures, I remembered this book, which looks like a happy little children's annual. But what was beautiful was it had all sorts of stories, and I loved this one about a deep sea diver. And the reason I loved it, a bit like the monsters Phil was just talking about, was because it had really scary pictures. This is a deep sea diver fight with his legs stuck in a giant clam, and he's using a crowbar to get it out. And I was just fascinated by this, kind of scared, but also couldn't get enough of looking at it. And also one where the poor guy, like, talk about a bad job, he has to fight a giant crab. That crab is way too big, I think, for any real crab. I hope it is. But,
I hope so.
You'll notice at the start of this book, I'm reminding you of all their adventures, and there's a picture of, hey, remember when we went to the bottom of the ocean and fought a high voltage electropus? So you can see that's directly inspired by the books I loved as a kid.
That's wonderful. Okay, let's jump to another question for you both, and sort of along those lines. So, Penkridge County Middle School in Stafford. If you could be a character in another famous book, this kind of links in with your. Who would you be, and that should be why? A high. I don't know what a high is, but who would you be in a high? So Bill, who would you be if you could be a character in another famous book and a high, and why?
The one that jumps to mind is some of the books I loved when I was a kid were the Asterix and Obelix comics. With Asterix and his friend going through the forest beating up Romans, and the idea of drinking magic potion and then being able to fight legions of Roman legionnaires sounded like a lot of fun to me. So I'd pick Asterix.
Asterix are brilliant books. So what about yourself, Andy? Any particular character in another famous book that you'd like to be, and why?
Well, I love identifying with lots of characters, but as you were talking, I thought about this guy, the Cat in the Hat, that totally irresponsible anarchist who comes in and almost destroys a house for the entertainment of the children. And I love that kind of anarchy, and anything can happen.
Anything can happen. But that's what's amazing, which really echoes your own books. Last question about books, and then we're going to. I think we're going to do something kind of interactive with me, aren't we? After this, so let's just have one more school question, which along those lines, and that's all about reading and stuff. So this is actually about library. So Oswestry School in Shropshire, did they have a library at school, and if so, what did it mean to them? I don't know about in Australia, but in the UK, not all schools are fortunate enough to have a library, and when they do, it can be an amazing thing for schools. So, Bill, did you have a library at school, and did it mean anything to you in terms of either reading or writing or drawing when you were younger?
It did. So we were very lucky to have a library at my school, and I think the thing that I remember about a library the most was that it had lots and lots of books in it, obviously, but you would come across so many things that you didn't expect. So you'd find yourself reading a book about paleontology or dinosaurs or how snowstorms begin or something like that. and it was the range of subject matter before you, that you didn't choose a certain lane to be interested in. There was sort of a world of information, and you sort of picked out the bits that were special to you. So that was the bit about the library that was really important to me.
I think it's interesting you say that, because I think going in a library, I'm just going to go off on a tangent a little bit, but going in a library, because the stuff's all around you and you can just pick stuff up and open it all over the place and dive in. You can't really do that online in the same way, can you? So books and having them around you and being able to just sort of flick through them can be really inspirational in terms of linking those ideas up, like you spoke about and Andy spoke about as well. So Andy, do you have a library, and did it mean a lot to you when you were a kid?
I had a school library which was well stocked, and I had a public library where we'd go each Friday night and borrow books. And the library to me was like, you never know what door, like a book is like a little doorway, and it could take you anywhere. And it's like always exciting, and it still is. I still go into a bookshop or a library and I go, I don't know what I'm looking for, but it will find me if I'm patient enough. Yeah,
no, I would agree with that. That's wonderful. Brilliant answers, both of you. Thank you very much. So now we're apparently going to do something sort of interactive. So this is and kind of gives you it gives you a clue to how kind of Andy and Bill worked on this. But you explain, and I'll put Bill's drawing screen up as well. So I'll leave it to you. Let me just remove this van so we can see the whole picture. Here we go. So who's gonna? Are you gonna explain, Andy or Bill? Which one?
Who's our main character? It's Mr. Dilly.
It's me.
And Bill did this just before we came on. I can see a road leading off into the distance. I can see the moon. Let's ask Mr. Dilly, where would you like to go on your adventure?
I'd like to go to a land full of cake.
Okay, Cake Land.
Cake Land, definitely Cake Land.
Me and you, the reader, have been to Cake Land many times. Looks like a cake. Looks a bit like Mr. Dilly's hat too.
How do you know it's not made out of cake? Could already be.
So what are you drawing, Bill? Looks like a house?
Yeah, we've got Cake Castle here. So this is where the Cake King lives. But I strongly suspect it's not going to be the easiest path on the way to.
Well, I've actually been looking for, Bill. I'm on the hunt for, because she's gone missing. Is Princess Victoria Sponge, who's gone missing? I don't know if you can help me try and find her.
Yeah, well, I can start drawing up Princess Victoria Sponge, but unfortunately, I think she's been whisked away to the Cake Cave. So I might draw a bit of a cake cave here, which is guarded by a beast that is so terrifying that I can't even describe it. Only Andy's brave enough to tell us about the beast that guards the Cake Cave.
Well, if you had a beast guarding a cake cave, you'd want to make sure the beast didn't like eating cake.
No, that would be counterintuitive.
So maybe this is a beast without a mouth, or
oh boy. The beast without a mouth. He's been driven mad with jealousy because he can't have any of the cake. So maybe he's just sort of one.
Well, I think that's angry... because he's a fruitcake. That would be one.
No, that's you, really.
Okay, so he's half fruitcake, half slug, and he's got some big antennas coming out the top of his head, but he doesn't have a mouth, so he isn't able to eat any cake. So he's filled with a kind of raging jealousy that he can't have the cake he desires so much.
Now you've just made a really cute character there. And,
is there a problem with the? I just wondered if there was, the thing is with the cake king and the princess is the guards, and I was wondering if there was because they never fall asleep, these guards, because they're like let's call them the tiramisu twins, because they're always eating coffee charged cake, and these are tiramisu twins. Here we go.
This is good. You could take our job. You got a great idea here. So I got to draw some guys who have had way too much coffee. So I'll put a little hat on them. And this is tiramisu that comes in a cup. So that's why I'm drawing it in a cup here. And for the interest of time, I'm just going to copy and paste our tiramisu twins. But they're the two guards who
That's
defend.
brilliant. That's brilliant.
I don't think they look wired enough, Bill. I want to see them a little more.
Okay, we're gonna put some little lines out of them. We've got a little twitch in the eyebrow here.
Yeah.
This one's quaking quite a bit. He's got the shakes from too much coffee, and I got some waggly arms. Okay, we'll redraw them.
You can see, Mr. Dilly, the personality coming out.
Yeah.
And that's telling me what sort of character this would be. They'd be fun to write.
Yeah,
so that's incredible. I mean, you know, just literally just seeing that and the ideas that can come from just those suggestions and your illustrations, Bill, and the land and world that you can create. And I, you know, I got what you said, Bill, about the, you know, the Quentin Blake. So if kids aren't familiar with Quentin Blake, he did a lot of the Roald Dahl books, illustrations, those sort of sketchy illustration kind of styles that Bill was talking about. And you can see it. You don't have to be. They're sort of sketched down just straight out of your head. I mean, obviously Bill's a bit of an expert at it, but it's amazing what you can go for. So shall we take it to a conclusion? We've got another. What could we bung in there?
Aren't you trying? Did you say you were in love with Princess Sponge?
Yeah, I'm trying to find her, but I need to find Carrot Cake Colin.
No. We don't need more characters at this point, Mr.
We've got plenty of characters.
We've got plenty of characters.
We need to get you and Princess Sponge. If not, you know, married, at least you need to find her.
Get married. I like that. I like that. With a ring donut.
Well, harking back to our previous story, maybe you've been terrified away by the tiramisu twins, but you've been brave enough, powered by the love that you have for Victoria Sponge Princess. You're going ahead and you're going to jump into the deep hole that is sort of the secret entrance to the cave, and you can save her that way. So I've got you jumping in here into the deep hole that gets around to the back of the cave there.
He's not going to squash there, is he?
No, she's out of the way. Look, I'll put some mushrooms down the bottom that you can land onto. Nice and
that's lucky. I was wondering about that.
Yeah.
Very nice. Yes.
There you go.
They can live happily ever after in their mushroom hole together.
Mushroom hole.
Look at that. Can I give you both a round of? I mean, that is absolutely wonderful. Look at that. That is brilliant. So it gives you a real glimpse into your working process together. It must be a real joy to work together like in that way as well. You must be a bit like you said about with Terry, and you must be difficult sometimes to get any work done because you're firing off all over the place.
Well, there's so many ideas there, and as I said, that little guard without the mouth, I could take that and use that in a whole other story. So while we're playing here, it doesn't mean we're locked into this. There are just wonderful ideas, and absolutely the cake land is worth exploring for sure.
That is amazing. That is amazing. I can't thank you enough, Bill, for drawing that as well, and you're letting me see and let us all see your sort of process together. I think we're going to finish today. We're going to say goodbye to Bill in a minute. We're going to finish today with a final reading from you, Andy, before we wrap up today's show. But Bill, it's been an absolute joy to have you on and to see you drawing that. It's amazing. It really is. It's an incredible thing to watch. So thank you very much for being on, and good luck with your future adventures with Andy. Unlimited, of course, Land of Lost Things and beyond. So I'll give you a big round of applause, Bill. Thank you very much, and lovely to meet you. So goodbye, Mr. Bill.
Lovely chatting with you all, and hopefully chat to you soon in the future, Mr. Dilly. But thanks again for the time.
Cheers, Bill. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That's amazing, Andy. Really love that. Really love that. Okay, so let's go to you for our final jump into the Land of Lost Things. Here we go.
Oh, shall we find out how the pirate rabbit lost his foot? Because this was one of the first things written for this book, where the pirate rabbit discovers they have a lucky rabbit's foot, realizes it's his, and then tells them this story where one day I be walking on my own 2 feet through a fearsome piranha swamp, and the boardwood planks be rotted through, and suddenly I hear a snap. My foot falls into the water, but nothing happens. My foot just gets a little bit wet. So we thought it was going to be bitten off by a piranha, but his foot just got wet. Then later that day, I be wanting to, where'd my glasses go? Later that day, I would be wanting to trim my toenails, but boil my barnacles, I'd lost my clippers. Luckily, I find my old bear trap. That should work great for cutting my toenails. I'm just about to line it up and set it off with my sword when a bug flies right into my eye, and the pirate, my foot goes into the trap, and it trims my nails beautifully. So he doesn't lose his foot that way. And to cut a long story short, after a number of other rather silly near scrapes, I be tired and thirsty after a long day pirating. So I go and find a drinks machine, but the stupid machine takes me coin and doesn't give me a drink. I be so mad I wind up for a big kick, but my foot gets stuck in the machine. So they have to be cutting me off to hospital to have the machine surgically removed. But the last second, they take me to the wrong hospital. And let's see if I can read with this weird thing. I'll be asleep while the vending machine surgeon be operating. But when I wake up, he be saying, well, the good news is that we were able to save that poor vending machine you kicked. But in the process, we had to amputate your foot. What? Where is it? Oh, we just threw it out the window. Vending machines don't have feet, so I don't know much about them. Why? You want it for something? And that, folks, is how I lost me foot.
That's brilliant. I love that bit of the book, as I said earlier. Got one final question for you, Andy, before we say goodbye. And this is you do a short one, and it's kind of just to the kids watching, because obviously you are where you are with all the wonderful success you've had, and they're just starting out the age they're at. But here's a question: Green Mountain Primary School, Bury. If you could tell your younger writing self anything, what would it be?
That you can make a living out of something that you love, even if it doesn't appear that there's a career, like a normal job at the end of it. It's enough to love something so deeply that you just become an expert in it. And when you do that, the career will look after itself. The money will follow. So find what you love, and reading is one of the best ways to survey the world for all the different things that are in there, and to alert you to what excites you and what you have to bring to the world, which might be really unique, as I found when I tried to be a proper writer, but all this nonsense came out, and I was like, oh, I must be a nonsense comedy writer. Okay, I'll go with that, because I love to laugh. I love making people laugh. But I never would have thought that was a career I could do. So
that's honestly, that's a wonderful bit of advice to finish on. Thanks very much, Andy. Listen, to you and Bill, I'm going to wish you all the best of luck in the world with the Land of Lost Things. As I said, the next one's out next year. I can't wait for that already. As I said, I really did, really, really love the book, really enjoyed it. It's been a pleasure speaking to you again, Andy, and seeing you work with Bill as well. So give this man a big round of applause.
Thank you, Mr. Dilly, and I hope you and Princess Sponge are happy ever after.
Always, Andy, always.
Don't eat her.
Take care, Andy. Nice to meet you. Thanks. Cheers, and Andy. Take care. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. So that was wonderful there. Andy Griffiths and Bill Hope, The Land of Lost Things, out now. Thanks as always for tuning in and watching. My name is, of course, Mr. Dilly, and it's goodbye from me, my friends, and it's goodbye from me. Goodbye. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.